6 o'clock. We have a quorum with the Hopkinton Conservation Commission. Jordan, you guys have a quorum at this point?
You know, I don't know. I'm on an iPad, so I've got to flip through. I see Tim Buckaloo. I see Annie Koenigsberg. I see Gary Kessler. I don't know if anyone else is here.
Jerry's here as well, Jordan.
Okay.
Oh, he is. Okay, so, well, as long as we've got 4, then we've got a quorum.
Yep.
Okay. All right, that sounds good. So why don't we start off? I'll just go through my legal script here for the Hopkinton Concom. Then I'll hand it over to Westborough. You guys
Andy.
can, I'll hand it over to Andy. He can do his, and then we'll open it up to the MassDOT for their presentation. So as a preliminary matter, this is Jeff Barnes, Chair of the Hopkinton Conservation Commission. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. So members of the commission, please respond present when I state your name. Melissa?
Present.
Carrie? I don't think Carrie joined us. Jim?
Present.
Ed, I don't believe has joined us. Janine?
Present.
And I don't think Ted has joined us. And this is Jeff Barnes. So we have a quorum. There's 4 members. This is an open meeting of the Hopkinton Conservation Commission and the Westborough Conservation Commission to start. It's being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. For this meeting, the Hopkinton Conservation Commission is convening by video conference via Zoom as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Additionally, the meeting may also be being broadcast by HCAM through its platform. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that others may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials have been provided to the members of this body, are available on the town's website via the web meeting calendar and the town website. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I, the chair, will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will invite board members to provide any comment, questions, or motion. Please hold until your name is called. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. And please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name and address before speaking. If members wish to engage with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. After members have spoken, the chair will afford public comments as follows. The chair will first ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify their names and address. Once the chair has a list of public comments, I will call on each by name and afford 3 minutes for any comments. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be by roll call vote. I'll call each member of the commission, at which point you'll state your name and your vote. Okay. Go ahead, Andy. I don't know if you need to do a similar.
Technically, yes. So the July hearing of the Westborough Conservation Commission special hearing is in session pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, general law, chapter 30A, section 18, and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Westborough Conservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. specific information and general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found at www.town.westboro.ma/sites/westboro.ma/files/uploads COVID-19 meeting info 1 PDF. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the Towns of Westborough's website an audio or video recording transcript or other comprehensive recording of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting at www.town.westboro.ma.us Conservation Commission /news/Conservation Commission remote meeting information. Would you like me to read the legal notice?
Yeah, why don't you do that, Andy, and then I need to read it
Okay.
for Hopkinton when you're done. Thank you.
All right, legal notice of public hearing, notice of intent, Massachusetts Department of Transportation, Highway Division, I-495, I-90 interchange, Westborough, Massachusetts. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Westborough Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, July 14th, 2020 at 6 p.m. pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 38, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order. This meeting will be of the Westborough Conservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation. To view the meeting, please go to westboroughtv.org/public-channel/live-stream-public. The commission will consider a notice of intent filed by the Massachusetts Department of Transportation Highway Division to reconfigure the I-495, I-90 interchange. The project is located in the right-of-way of both I-495 and I-90 roadways, approximately 1 mile in each direction from the interchange of I-495, I-90.
Okay, thank you, Andy. And I'll open the public hearing on behalf of the Hopkinton Conservation Commission. Hopkinton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, July 14th, 2020 at 6:00 p.m. virtually online to hear all persons interested in a notice of intent filed by MassDOT to reconfigure the existing I-495, I-90 interchange with associated site work. The location is I-495 and the I-90 highway interchange. And if you have someone from MassDOT who wants to discuss the project, that would be great.
Jeff, that would be Mark Forbett. I think he's on
Okay.
the chain.
Mark,
And I think Ryan McNeil from MassDOT is going to introduce first for MassDOT. I think Ryan is on the line, hopefully.
Yep, I'll start it and then I'll turn it over to Mark for the meat of the presentation. I will mention that I've gotten a couple of messages in the last couple of minutes. It seems like some potential attendees might still be on hold and trying to get into the meeting.
yeah, I'm just letting him in now. I apologize.
Okay. Thank you. So much for having us tonight. My name is Ryan McNeil. I am the project manager for the I-90, I-495 interchange reconstruction project. Thank you to the commissioners from both towns and Mr. McAdam and Mr. McCarron for facilitating. We tend to think of projects along town lines, but the resource areas clearly do not. So I think there's a tremendous benefit for us to at least have this initial presentation on a project-wide standpoint to both commissions. So thank you to both commissions for allowing us to do this tonight. We have it's a considerable size project. We have a lot of environmental specific information to present tonight. We're not going to go into a lot of depth on the project purpose and need. or design development. MassDOT has had 20 plus public presentations on the project over the last years. Those are all preserved on MassDOT's webpage if you're interested in going back through hours and hours and hours of presentation. Was there. In addition, last Thursday, we published a virtual design public hearing. That's also available on MassDOT's web. MassDOT design public hearings. Click on the first Google result and scroll down a little bit. You'll be able to find that presentation. That presentation and many of the ones we've done over the last couple of years have a great background for why the interchange currently exists as it does, what has changed to allow us to reconfigure, and a lot of the alternative analysis, purpose and need, projected benefits of the selected alternative. All of that information is there and easily available. That 25% design public hearing that I mentioned that we published or posted last Thursday is currently accepting public comments, and I think will be through 23rd. So if our members of the commission or members of the public, again, want to go and get some background on the project or have comments or questions or input on the project that aren't your commissions, I encourage folks to go watch those presentations. There are instructions at the end of the presentation on how to submit written comments or to MassDOT on the project. So some great resources there on the back of the project. So we're not going to, we could talk for hours in need and design here, and that's not really the intent. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mark Fobert with Tetra Tech. Mark, kind of step by step, the basics of the NOI application, the environmental resources, the containage, and mitigation ideas. So with that, Mark.
Yep, hopefully I can share my screen. Can I request some screen sharing?
Yeah, Jeff, I can't see a icon for me to share it either.
Oh, I just got the ability to share it, so
Good.
we'll run with that. I want screen 2. Do you see a beautiful aerial photo of the project area, hopefully?
Not yet.
No, not yet.
I am sharing. Let me make sure I am. It's outlined in green.
We got it now.
Yep,
You're down.
got it.
Okay. Which are you seeing just an air photo, or are you seeing an air photo with a? Are you seeing a PowerPoint presentation?
Yeah, it's an air photo, Mark. Sorry, I was on mute, but yeah, you're good.
Okay, great, thank you. So I'm going to run through a quick PowerPoint show, and then I'm going to take you through some of the NOI plans. Of course, this is the view looking down I-495 South from the Cumberland Farms property down the highway. Here we have the view down I-90 eastbound. We have the Sudbury River, Cumberland Farms in the distance. This is one of the loop ramps where we're proposing mitigation, and the Roosevelt neighborhood in the foreground. And then finally, this is the old toll plaza area. and looking up 495 northbound. This project needs a wetland variance, and this is the wetland variance process. We filed the notices of intent with the Conservation Commission. Each commission will have to deny the project with conditions. MassDOT will then appeal that denial and request a superseding order, which DEP again has to deny because we are thresholds. And then we file our variance and start that process. I'll quickly go over the contents of the NOI filing. It includes a description of the resource areas, description of the project, wetland resource impacts, stormwater, and mitigation. It's got several appendices. Appendix A is a vernal pool survey. We did 4 years of vernal pool surveys throughout the site. There is one vernal pool located within the project area that will be affected, and that is VP 14. We'll take a look at that one later. We also did Appendix B, which is the Atlantic white cedar inventory. That's an inventory of the existing Atlantic white cedar trees. We did their health, their size, and things like that, so we can incorporate those into our wetland mitigation plan. We're trying to figure out where they grow best. Appendix C are your notice of intent plans, which include wetland impact plans, wetland restoration plans, drainage plans, and landscape plans. There's basically 4 sets in there. Appendix D are the existing stream crossing assessment. There were 35 crossings identified, and we documented their structural conditions and their connectivity for wildlife passage. Appendix E is a wildlife habitat assessment. That is an assessment of the impacted wetlands using DEP's criteria. Appendix F is a bordering land subject to flooding determination. In Westborough, there's a zone A's, which don't have elevations associated with them. In order to get the correct boundary of bordering land subject to flooding, we had to do a modeling to establish that elevation, and that's been done, and I'll be going over that in a few seconds. Appendix G is our compensatory flood storage analysis, where we have to show how we mitigate for all lost flood storage that was located in bordering land subject to flooding. Appendix H is our stream crossing impact assessment report. It documents the impacts and improvements to the crossings within the project limit. And Appendix I is your standard stormwater management plan, which is currently there's no BMPs to provide recharge or water treatment at the site. All new development impervious areas will comply with all the DEP stormwater standards, all 10 of them. Redevelopment impervious areas will conform with Mass DEP stormwater standards 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 to the maximum extent practicable. Continuing with the appendices. Appendix J is a draft wetland mitigation plan. It's a mitigation plan based on the Army Corps of Engineers guidance. Includes a monitoring report and includes complete wetlands functions and values assessment for all of those impacted wetlands. Appendix K is your landscape restoration specification, which includes your planting requirements and your seed mix details. And Appendix L is a Whitehall Brook no rise analysis, which documents that the proposed work will not cause an increase in flood levels. These are the project-wide wetland impacts. The important ones here, BLSF, we have approximately 58,000 cubic feet of flood storage lost, but that's mitigated with approximately 96,000 cubic feet of flood storage. Inland banks is approximately 1,600 square feet, linear feet, sorry, permanently impacted, and that's replaced with 1,300 linear feet. BVW, we lose about 85,000 square feet, but we mitigate with 295,000 square feet. Land underwater, 8,200 square feet of permanent impacts, and replaced with approximately 8,900 square feet of mitigation. There's also 505 cubic yards of dredge, which I'll go over when we get to those areas. The impacts to date have been reduced to the greatest extent practicable with the use of walls and bridges. The red and white striped lines are proposed walls, which are they retain the wetland fill, the fill for the roadway, so they don't spill into the wetlands. They also have a lot of bridges out here that are proposed to reduce wetland impacts, which are shown in yellow. And here's the results of our Appendix A, which is our vernal pool survey. These are the vernal pool surveys that meet the biological and physical criteria. Again, that was based on the 4 years of vernal pool surveys. And again, Vernal Pool 14 is the only one affected by the project. I'll be showing you that as we go through the plans. Here's that Appendix F, which is the BLSF determination I discussed. It's only in Westborough, and again, was required because the firm map only had a zone A and not an AE, and it was based on a HydroCAD model. That original from the FEMA map, you can see in green, that was the original zone A. The pink crosshatch is the revised, corrected borderline subject to flooding boundary. This is Appendix G, the compensatory flood storage. The BLSF impacts occurred between elevations 274 and 282. Storage will be provided at the same elevations and mostly within the same reach. And we are going to reconnect the historic floodplain by removing the floodplains. You can see these are the reaches, reach W1, W2, et cetera, around the project area. Excuse me. And then the pink areas are the proposed mitigation flood storage, and they're located scattered throughout the project, as you can see.
Mark, what do you mean by reach? Can you just explain that, please?
Sure. It's separated by, DEP's got a definition of reach. That's on the call too. That parent work I work with, but it's a segment of the river. So we have reach W1 here, which is the lower segment here, and then the segment on this side of the highway goes into reach W2 in this area, S1A for Sudbury River, and then we have another reach over here.
Okay, so it's not like watershed associated. It's just.
It is similar to, I mean, it's an area that that's confined, and it's how it's confined to each of those areas.
Okay.
And we have to have unrestricted access to that when we do our mitigation.
Okay, great. Thank you.
That's why the design shows up each reach and hopefully each solution. This is the stream crossing, the existing stream crossings out there. Initially, 35 culverts were identified. We're proposing to replace 3. We're extending one with improvements. 3 of the culverts didn't exist. 3 served only runway runoff only, and 3 culverts were removed and naturally restored. Those are the ones in the mitigation area here and here. You'll be seeing those later in the presentation. Our biggest stream crossing replacement is the crossing number 3, which is Whitehall Brook, located in Hopkinton. The existing crossing or culvert is shown in gray. It's approximately 15 feet wide. The proposed is shown in blue. It's approximately 30 feet wide, which equals bank full width. It's going to increase the openness ratio. Right now, there's no natural substrate material within the crossing. We're going to add some natural substrate into that crossing. We're also going to smooth the profile. There's a big drop as you go into that culvert, which is going to be fixed when we go through it, when we replace it. Again, that's a 30 by 7 open box culvert, 170 feet in length. Appendix I is your stormwater management plan. 8 infiltration basins are proposed and 1 infiltration swale. The yellow are the infiltration basins located in both Hopkinton and Westborough. And the orange is your just an infiltration swale located up 495 on the northern end in Westborough. And the treatment target to mitigate impacts from the same subbasin. We use a macro approach, which looks at the project as a whole. And new development is considered an increase in impervious area and treated as such. Appendix J is our wetland mitigation. We're very excited about our opportunity we have out here is to remove the historic fill that was placed during when the highway was constructed in the ACEC. Our mitigation is located in the vicinity of the impacts. It's near streams, wetlands, the ACC flood boundaries. It can serve multiple functions: BVW, BLSF, stormwater treatment, habitat. It increases the buffer between the roadways and the existing ACEC and allows for wetland restoration in both towns. Here's an overview of that mitigation. We have mitigation site A over here, the northern loop ramp, and mitigation site B, the eastern loop ramp. You can see this is some of the Atlantic white cedars that were inventoried. Will be integrated into that plan. And we're proposing to, this is wetland mitigation site A, the northwest or northern loop ramp. We propose to mitigate at a 2-to-1 ratio as required by DEP in their variance process. The available mitigation areas, we have forested habitat shown in dark green, emergent habitat shown in light green, flood storage shown in blue, and upland habitat shown in pink. And once again, and we also have these, you'll see these purple stars located here, here, and here. Those are active data loggers that we are actually collecting groundwater data to help us design the wetland mitigation site. We find that the key thing to design one of these mitigation sites is to get the wetlands growing at the proper elevation in relation to groundwater. And so by being this constant monitoring, we can compare these the existing data with rainfall data and things like that. And there's a direct relationship, and it will help us with our design. This is the other mitigation area, which is the southeast loop ramp. Again, that 2-to-1 mitigation, same color scheme. You got the forested habitat in dark green, emergent habitat in light green, flood storage in blue, upland habitat in pink. And again, we do restore these natural floodplains. We've also got the monitoring walls. This one happens to have an infiltration basin next to it that I'll be showing later. So that is the PowerPoint show. And I'm going to jump to the plans now. So in order to, for this presentation, we overlaid the design on an aerial photo because we think it's a lot easier to follow that way. These are the frames. We're starting at the southern end of the project, sheet 24 in Hopkinton, and the plans run to the north till you get to plan 35, which is located adjacent to Route 9. Now the plans jump back down here to the western end, the Mass Pike, and go from west to east through the project area. And so I'm going to go through these overlays now. The white frames are basically Hopkinton frames, and the black frames are Westborough. This is the first sheet. These correspond to the NOI plans. So if you go to NOI sheet number 24, impact plan, this is what you'll see. We just decided it was a lot easier to look at these air photos because you can give you some context of where you are in space. It's really hard to do that as you look through those plans. I think if you take a look, you'll notice that. This is our, we have an infiltration basin number 3 on this sheet, but that's about it for that sheet. So this is our first plan with wetland impacts on it. There's some consistencies through these plans. The orange line is the limit of grading on all of them. The brown line, sediment control. Yellow line is the limit of work. Proposed walls are shown in this dash area. Wetland impacts are shown in dark with the wetland ID followed by the BVW impact. Those are cumulative impacts for the entire wetland. There's also individual impacts shown on these plans that I'm not going to get into as much because it's a pretty fine detail. I will zoom in. You can see the BVW permanent impacts are shown in orange crosshatch. A green crosshatch is temporary BVW. The purplish crosshatch is land underwater impact. And you can see there are numbers in orange with black outline are permanent impacts. Numbers in white, numbers with white outlines are temporary impacts. So in this case, we have impacts to the work in this area involves removing an existing paved swale and replacing it with a vegetated swale. And so those are the impacts associated with that. In particular, we have about 700 square feet of impact to land underwater and 279 linear feet of bank. Both those gets restored. We have some impact associated here with culvert placement. Back out, sorry. And we have the two infiltration basins 3 and 6. So we're going to continue northbound. And again, there's no impacts on sheet 26. We included all the sheets so you could stay in context with where you are on the plan. If we only included the ones that had jurisdictional wetlands, the plans would jump all over the place and you kind of lose track where you are. So hopefully this helps. So moving on to sheet 27. Again, there's no wetland impacts, but just to get you oriented, this is Fruit Street. You've got ramp NW at the bottom and ramp E at the top. Okay, we're getting into the area of the interchange directly. We have infiltration basin number 6 above, number 2 down here. Starting at the top of the page, wetland T02, W02, which is ramp, there's impacts from ramp, temporary impacts from ramp EN in this location. And we have wetland TO2W03, which is located in the eastern loop ramp. You see this green impact that surrounds the area that we're going to work in. Those impacts are directly related to us having to grade in the wetland impacts. So those are all associated, I'm sorry, the wetland mitigation. So all those impacts are basically from wetland mitigation. I-495 and I-90, I'm sorry, the two barrels of I-495 become closer together. And so you have median impacts in a lot of the project. Here is wetland TO1W48. And this BVW here, the entire BVW is impacted along with TO1W48. Some of these other wetlands we'll see on other plans. So we'll continue down the line. Here you've got 495 crossing I-90. The wetlands up here is the big infield we'll see on sheets 41 and 48. This is ramp EN. The ramps are named after the direction of travel, in this case, east to north. This is wetland TO1W09, and there's some impacts. You can see temporary impacts cross-hatched in green from the construction of ramp EN. There's also some impacts to the intermittent stream that runs through here. There's about 5,000 feet of impact to land underwater. Again, this is from ramp NE. Ramp NE is elevated. You can see these are bridge piers. So we do span that. So all those impacts are temporary. This side of I-90 and corridor 495 is wetland TO1W35, where we have impacts to showed in green for temporary BVW impacts, and the blue is the land subject to flooding impacts. Same on this side. The light blue is borderline subject to flooding impacts, and again, the green is the temporary BVW. We'll continue down the path here. So here's the railroad tracks. At the top, we have approximately for wetland TO2W26, we have some minor impacts from construction of this outfall. This is the ramp that goes adjacent to Cumberland Farms. It's ramp WN. Will be in sheet 50, you'll be able to see the entire impact. There's also some impacts along here to that wetland where it ties into I-495 northbound. Again, so it started at the top at wetland TO1W27, which is the BVW temporary impacts from an installation of an outfall here. Again, the I-495 you can see is starting to go northbound. It's located in the median. There's a couple median wetlands here, TO1W15 and TO1W16. Both of these are impacted from the relocation of I-90 northbound into the infield, or into the median area, not infield, sorry about that. Also the same with this TO1W17, same thing. I-495 northbound going into the median and impacting the wetland. These impacts to TO2W10 are shown on sheets 30 and 60. We'll get to those later in the presentation. Here we have intermittent stream impacts in the infield. This is a detail of what we're proposing in this area. It's a vegetated apron detail. We've worked this out with DEP from our past variances. They didn't like the bare riprap in areas where there were wetlands, so they requested we put some compost core fiber matting on it and plant them. We've had good success with this on some other projects, and it does grow in quite well, and it is better than the bare riprap in the wetland areas. So that's proposed in several areas throughout the project, and that was the detail. So you've got some approximately 80 square feet of permanent impact to land in the water and some bank impact in this area also. For wetland TO2W7, again, you've got some outfall impact and some road and widening grading impacts along the edge. Continuing northbound, we've got that drainage swale that I mentioned, drainage swale number 7 in Westborough. You can see this is the solar site that's located along 495. If you drive it, you're probably familiar with it.
Excuse me, Mark, can you go back to the previous,
Yep,
the one before this one?
that one.
Um,
It may take us, it may be a lag.
okay, so that's just a bridge area there, that square kind of in the center.
Yes, that's Flanders Road, the
Okay.
bridge over Flanders.
Okay, got it. All right, sorry.
No problem. Got me. Let me get a drink of water. That was good. Yes.
I do have a question about the outfalls. You say
Yeah.
you're putting in new outfalls. Is that, looking at the diagrams, that's what you're doing up and down the barrel of the highway? Correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so those are discharging directly into resource areas. Is there any treatment going on before discharge?
I'm gonna let Beth, you want to chime in on that?
I do. So they're not new outfalls. We are reconstructing existing outfalls in many cases because there's been destabilization of the slope. In general, we tried to pull all the existing outfalls back away from the resource areas and add in either these vegetated aprons as shown in the detail or just a standard riprap apron if it was outside of the resource area to slow the velocities. So every outfall doesn't necessarily have stormwater treatment, but there are no new discharges to wetlands for the project.
Okay, how about, you going to change the catch basins or the existing catch basins? Any oil water separators or sediment traps in the catch basins?
So the catch basins are going to be, I think, almost all new. They'll be replaced with the deep sump catch basins. There are no oil and grit separators, but we do have the infiltration basins with the sediment forebays at those 9 locations.
All right, thank you.
Yep, and I think we're also, how many existing outfalls versus how many proposed, Beth?
Oh, right. So off the top of my head, I think there were like 100 and maybe 120 existing outfalls for the project, and we're actually decreasing the number of outfalls to about half of that because we're trying to combine the water and treat it at the infiltration basins.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, then this is a great example. Good timing. There's an infiltration basin. I'm sorry, that's a swale. So continuing on, we are on sheet 34. There's some impacts to wetland T01 W32 from some grading from the roadway and from outfall construction. And again, we have some impact over here to in wetland T01 W30 for the outfall to put in the protection in that area. So you have some impacts to land underwater and to bank in that area. Our final impact on 495 at the northern end of the project is this 90 square feet of temporary BVW impact from this outfall and from some roadway widening over here. And there's a little bit of impact on this side, which was accounted for in the previous sheet. This is Route 9. We're now going to jump to the western end of the project on the Massachusetts Turnpike in Hopkinton. This is sheet 36 if you're looking at your NOI plans. Again, there's no impact on the first sheet. We continue down. Here we are on sheet 37. There's some minor impacts from installation of outfalls to wetland TTKE/TTKF. You see some wetland impact there and some there. Wetland T01 W24. Again, there's some minor impacts from the widening, the slopes in here, and construction of stormwater outfalls. This infiltration basin, as Beth had mentioned, 5 and infiltration basin number 6 are located here. Continuing down, or at the Whitehall Brook, this is the same cross section I showed you of this proposed culvert. We have temporary impacts to Whitehall Brook of about 90 linear feet of bank and 1,200 square feet of land underwater. That's in addition to these impacts from widening that were shown on the previous sheet. There's also 225 cubic yards of dredge at this end for scour protection and 175 cubic yards of dredge at this end of the outfall, along with for wetlands TO1 W36, there you can see this green area is that BVW impact. And again, the light blue area is the BLSF impact. Moving down. Starting at the northern side, there's about approximately 5,000 square feet of impacted wetland temporary to wetland TO1 W23, as you can see here in light green and blue for grading and for outfall installation. For wetland TO1 W19, same thing, there's some grading and outfall installation. This side, it is again, this is mostly grading in this area for wetland TO1 W37. Just along this edge, there's an impact. This is vernal pool number 14 that we talked about earlier. There's a temporary impact of 982 square feet. That vernal pool is located in wetland TO1 W38, and there's impact. Again, the cumulative impact to that entire wetland is what's shown here in black. And the individual impacts are shown hatched. We move into the northern loop ramp area. All these temporary impacts for wetland TO1 W13, TTKB, TO2 W05, and TTKC, all these impacts are associated with the construction of the wetland mitigation area. We again have to grade into the wetland mitigation areas, into the wetlands to create the wetland mitigation area to blend them in. So that's what all these temporary impacts are related to. Again, this is our mitigation area. Shown in pink are our BLSF mitigation areas. There's 1, 2 here, and 3 here. We also have some impacts from ramp SW in this location, which is some BVW, about 1,400 square feet of permanent impact in this location. This ramp is on a viaduct after that, so it does go over the other wetlands. There's some temporary impacts from grading and work zones for wetland TO2 W01, and there are some bank and stream impacts in this area. There's this intermittent stream that's existing today that gets altered while we're working, but then restored. You've got the start of ramp ES here, and along with that, you've got impacts to wetland TO1 W39 and another infiltration basin here, number 1. Continuing eastbound on the Massachusetts Turnpike, you've got on the northern end, you've got wetland TO1 W23, which again, you have some impacts from grading to install new roadway and for outfall construction. I go back. I think I went backwards. Sorry. I did. Sorry about that. I'm back. All right. So this is wetland TO1 W14, ramp WS. There's a temporary impact in this area. You can see this ramp WS is on viaduct. Again, shows you the footings. We're spanning the wetland here. There is some grading and there's work zone here. There's also a wall on this side. You can see the dashed wall. There's also in this area for ramp WS, some temporary impacts to wetland TO1 W01. Again, that's getting spanned by this bridge structure. But infiltration basin number 9. You also, this is proposed replacement crossing number 13 in this area. I remember I mentioned there were 3 replacement crossings. This is one of them. TO1 W1 is the infield wetland. It's quite large. It shows up on 3 or 4 plans. It's basically impacts along the entire fringe of this, the giant infield that's out there. Was adjacent to the toll plaza. And so that's shown on several plans. We'll see it again as we go through the presentation. Now we're crossing 495 and I-90. In this area, we have the ramp coming, ramp NE. We showed these temporary impacts on a previous plan, again, spanning. There is a Sudbury River. There's a work zone to do work in this area, approximately 1,700 square feet of impact in this area to facilitate construction of ramp NE. We are not replacing either of the Sudbury culverts. This impact right here, the T01W9, is an isolated wetland, which is non-jurisdictional. We showed all the impacts on the plans. Here you see, this is coming down I-90 westbound. This is the ramp WN, as in west to 495 northbound. This is a works area. When we get to sheet T50, I'm sorry, sheet 50, you'll see the entire wetland. Again, the blue impact is temporary bordering lane subject to flooding impact. I'll go over these impacts to ramp WN when I get to sheet 50. Again, we have a BLSF mitigation area, which is temporary impacts a small portion of wetland T02W23. On the south side, we have impacts to wetland T02W24. You can see for outfall construction in a few locations. Keep moving down. We get to, this is the Sudbury River Tributary 13. We're not proposing to replace it, but we are doing scour protection on both ends. And we are doing dredge. There's 105 cubic yards of dredge on this side. And there's about 1,000 square feet of land of the water impact on this side, along with some minor BVW impacts in this area to wetland T02W20. This is the detail for the scour countermeasure for Tributary 13. Again, this is one of the vegetated riprap aprons that we're proposing in compliance with what we've done in the past with DEP. And we're now going to go back into the interchange. This is the northern loop ramp. Basically, these are the impacts associated that I mentioned that were associated with the wetland mitigation area when we go to restore it. Continuing on, jump into the toll plaza area. This again is that giant wetland T01W01, and you can see those fringe impacts I was discussing around the entire fringe of this, the orange being the permanent BVW impacts. You've got the two basins in this area. You've also got another larger BLSF mitigation area. This is proposed replacement crossing number 10 here. We can discuss that. Beth can discuss that later if you have any questions on that. We are replacing this connection here. Continuing down, we are at wetland T02W06. This is ramp ES, east to south. And you can see the orange would be the permanent BVW impact. There's a wall that you can see here. Hopefully it's the dashed line. And the green area would be the area required to construct that wall, which reduces the wetland impacts. Here we're at the eastern loop area, which is again, all the impacts in this area are associated with wetland mitigation. This one is from is to wetland T01W09. And finally, we're back to the ramp that is adjacent to Cumberland Farms, which impacts wetland T02W9. We have two large work areas on either side of that to facilitate construction. You do have minor impacts. These orange dots are piers, and all those piers added together equal about 200 square feet of permanent wetland impact. And that is what I have in my presentation now. Questions or however you guys want to proceed, let me know.
This is Andy Kenningsburg of the Westborough Conservation Commission. Are there any questions from the Westborough board?
Yeah, Mark, Jerry Cushing with Westborough Concom. I appreciate the detail going over. It was pretty thorough. Just going back to those groundwater wells that you mentioned, you're collecting data to help you with the mitigation effort. How many years of data you hope to have on that?
By the time we construct, 3 or 4 at least. Yeah. We've already got a couple. The data loggers are really helpful because you can, it's just, you go out there, you go out with a Bluetooth reader, it reads you download the readings and you bring them back to your office and you have a spreadsheet and see how it's going up and down. It really is key to getting a good mitigation site is what we found.
Tim Buckaloo.
Hey, Andy, this is Jeff Barnes. If you don't mind, I think what we, the Hopkins Conservation Commission at this point would just like to drop off because we have, a pretty heavy agenda for the rest of the evening. So we can just kind of, I think we can break off and then DOT can come in separately to
Okay,
different meetings and answer questions.
that's fine.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Thank you, Andy.
All right. So we can close out too. Do you need to take a vote to continue the hearing?
Yes, so we don't need to take a vote, but we'll continue the hearing out to our next meeting for the
July
Hopkins,
28th?
which is the 28th, right?
Okay, we'll handle our vote in our hearing itself. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, folks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mark, thank you for the presentation. We appreciate it.
I
Thank you,
appreciate
Jeff.
your time.
Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you.
guess you can start recording. Okay, the July 14th hearing of the Westborough Conservation Commission is now in session. Let me get the paperwork done here. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of open meeting law, general laws, chapter 30A, section 18, and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Westborough Conservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information in the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found at www.town.westborough.ma.us/sites/westborough.ma/files/upload/COVID-19 meeting info 1 PDF. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the Town of Westborough's website an audio or video recording transcript or other comprehensive record of the proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting at www.town.westborough.ma.us/conservation-commission/news/conservation-commission-remote-meeting-information. The first item we need to do is I need a motion to continue the notice of intent hearing for the I-495, I-90 interchange redevelopment project to the August 11th, 2020 meeting by request of the applicant, MassDOT. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Got it. Roll call. Gary?
Yes,
Tim? Where did Tim go?
I think Tim dropped out. I don't see.
Okay. Jerry?
Present.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Stephanie?
Yes.
Don't confuse me. Andy? Yes. Okay.
Hey, Andy, can I make one comment to you before we get into this?
Sure.
The motion that you're going to fill out tonight, I'm going to need a copy of that to include with our grant application because there's that motion to approve and submit the grant.
Mhm.
So I just was telling you that before you get going on it, it'll be part of the record. So
Okay, so you don't want me to sign anything.
use your best penmanship is I guess what I'm saying. But
Well, now you tell
that's
me.
all. That's all. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. I'll do what I can.
And your signature, there is a spot for your signature at the very end of it.
Got it.
Thank you.
Right. I'll fix it up, send you a nice copy. Okay. All right. The first item on the agenda is to continue hearing for CASA Investments, map 3, parcels 29A and 57 off of Harvest Way, DEP file number 332-902. Mr. Tetro? I think that isn't that him? There's
There he
Tim.
is. Hi, Tim.
I don't
Yeah,
think James can hear us.
Who?
Hello,
don't think-
Timothy.
Hi, I can hear you.
Yeah, we're trying to get a hold of Jim Tetro.
I'm sorry, I had to absent myself for a minute between the meetings.
We'll remember that. Okay.
Zoom happens.
Mhm.
I had some interesting questions. Are we officially in the meeting now, Andy?
Yes. Yeah.
I'll reserve my questions then.
Okay. Well, until James Tetro can get on, we're kind of stuck here for a second. How do we, so he's on the phone, right? Oh,
Yeah, he is here, but I don't know why he's not able to hear or speak.
I don't know why he's on, but he said that that doesn't work on an email, so I'm still trying to get him in.
well,
Meeting ID. It tells me it's not supported for those numbers. I haven't tried all of them yet. Interesting.
well, why we are trying to get him set up here, why don't we jump to some of the other business that's not time sensitive?
Sure.
How about the land grant application? So is there any discussion, Jordan, on the land grant application for 30 Belknap? Anything else you want to fill us in on?
No, it's due tomorrow. We've got all the pieces. The appraisal just came in. I shared the project narrative with everyone in the Dropbox. And it's pretty straightforward. It just basically needs kind of approval by vote of the commission. And Andy would just, you'd be the only one that signs it. And we can do that electronically because we already have the vote to authorize electronic signatures recorded at the registry. So
Yep.
Unless anybody has any specific questions on it, and I'm happy to answer those, it really just need to go through the motion and then vote to approve and submit the grant application.
Okay, so anybody have any questions on the application?
No.
Hearing none, I need a motion to, I need a motion to approve and submit the land grant application for 30 Belknap Street and authorize Andrew Koenigsberg, the chair, to sign the application on behalf of the commission.
So moved.
Second.
So Stephanie?
Yep.
Okay.
That was me.
Okay, roll call. Gary?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Andy? Yes. Vote passes 5-0. Okay. Full certificate of compliance for 332-737-5 Walk-Up Drive.
This is just a commercial property on Walk-Up Drive. It was a sewer. It was a connection into the town sewer. They have an as-built submitted to the engineering department, and I got verification that everything is built as, as proposed. I think that their plan, is going to be to try and redevelop that site. So Sherry and I asked that they close out this existing order before moving forward with anything.
Okay. Right. This didn't make it into the motions, but
it should be there. Should be on the other page, maybe.
There was only one page.
Okay, you know what?
That's all right. I'll handle it.
Well, we updated the motions today. You may have printed before we did that, Andy. If you look in the Dropbox now, there's it's okay. I mean, if you can do it by hand and then fill it in later.
Yeah. Right. I'll put in my copy for the t-shirt. Okay.
Yeah.
Where is it? It's okay. I need a motion to issue a full certificate of compliance for DEP file number 332-737 located at 5 Walk-Up Drive.
So moved.
Second. Okay. All right. Gary?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Andy? Yes. 5-0. Okay. And the next thing.
Can I just ask something? That house over on Crossman Street where you guys did the cease and desist order, Jordan and Sherry, are they supposed to be back doing work again?
Yeah, there's two houses. It's actually on, the address is 12 Fillmore. And
Okay.
we issued an administrative approval in order for them to finish the work there. And they're doing that now.
All right, I just wanted to make sure because they were out there working today, so
Yeah, good. I'm glad you're
keeping
looking
an
out.
eye.
That's awesome.
You know, I was
Yeah.
kind of concerned because the house right next to them, that's right at the corner of Crossman and Upton
Yeah.
Road,
Yeah,
they cleared out their entire backyard.
yeah. Oh, I know. Oh, yeah. We went through it with them as well.
Okay.
In fact, it was well. Anyway, we got notified the same way we got notified about 12 Fillmore, and
All right.
so both have administrative approvals, and we verified that they've got the erosion and sedimentation controls, and
Yeah.
and then I've worked with both owners on how they're going to restore the area in terms of the type of seed mix and plantings they'll put in.
Okay.
So thanks.
Okay, so the next item is a full certificate of compliance for 332-447, which is 3 Larson Meadows Road.
This is similar. This goes back to probably the early 90s. There's very little in the file we have for this property. They got a partial certificate of compliance sometime in the 90s, and the only thing outstanding was that the site needed to be stabilized. Well, I think the site's stabilized at this point. They must be looking to sell. But anyway, they've requested a certificate of compliance for this parcel.
James, how are you? Let's try this.
All right, well, let's wrap this one up.
All right, I've got everybody on, so I'm going to unmute myself. And oh, I'm already unmuted.
Sherry, hold on. We're just going to finish this one thing.
Okay, I need a motion to issue a full certificate of compliance for DEP file number 332-447 located at 3 Larson Meadow Road.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
vote. Gary,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes.
Andy, yes. Okay, so now we are back on Zero Harvest Way. Welcome, Mr. Tetro. And
James, can you try talking and see if that works?
Yes.
Can you?
I will. Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
yes,
Okay. I apologize for all the trouble. I feel like this is the Get Smart cone of silence here, but it happens sometimes. So we finally have a clean letter from the DPW and Engineering Department review of the writings. We've gone back to the planning board. I will be quite frank, we have two very, very small items to resolve with them. One is that we finally have a definitive choice of the name for the main road, which begins at Adams Road, Grafton, and comes through, crosses the town line, and becomes the main part of this subdivision. It will be Libby Lane, L-I-B-B-E-Y Lane. It was one of 4 choices that Hazel Norris and the Historic Commission gave to us. And one other item was just the town planner asked that we specifically put in the detail of the mailbox shelter on Harvest Way that'll have the mailbox for all these folks, that it have a light inside. We had otherwise, I think, already satisfied him that it was going to be the same as the Appleseed Drive mailbox shelter, but he wanted us to also say that there's a light. So those are the only items, I believe, on the planning board side. I just wanted to be clear. And just for everybody's, just to sort of circle back on this project, when we first began this, we spoke informally with you folks and with Sherry and with Derek Sari, now moved on to DPW. And we had a lot of feedback that the commission did not want to see all this open at once and wanted to see a very specific plan for the tree cutting and the grading that would show that it wasn't all going to be open at once. It didn't have to all be cut at once, or rather, excuse me, grubbed at once. We added to this set of plans, we have an interim grading plan showing how the grading will be done partway through the process because what is happening on this project is that a large surplus of material from Westborough is going to Grafton. The road shown on here is Melrose Drive, which will be Libby Lane. Has the intersection with Harvest Way, just so at the road center line, and further than that on the left side of the road. And that surplus is needed. It's actually a neat balance between the two sides. That surplus is needed on the Grafton side, immediately to the east of the wetland crossing over in Grafton. So there's a lot of material that will be removed, but it's going to be removed within the same project, and it's going to go from Libby Lane, Westborough to Libby Lane, Grafton. So we created the interim grading plans and the tree cutting plans to show that, for instance, on the tree cutting, they will cut all of the proposed disturbed trees over all of the proposed disturbed area right away, but they will not clear and grub. There will be stumps left. There will be low vegetation left over much of that area, such that it's not all, we haven't increased the erodibility of all of the site at once. It's going to be done in stages. And that interim grading plan shows those stages. And I have to be quite frank, after we had developed that for you folks in the Westborough side, we showed it to the folks in Grafton, and they said, yeah, we want that. Give that to us. You're not just going to do that for them. I said, all right, we get it. So just briefly, we're not proposing any wetland alteration as part of this project. Obviously, we're working within the buffer zone around that C wetland that's immediately south of the extension of Harvest Way. And there's some wetland further south below the proposed retention basin. But the nearest approach to the wetland is, I believe, 25 feet at flag C26, if I remember right. So again, we're not proposing to alter any. We are at the nearest approach 25 feet away. And we developed with the interim grading plans, we showed proposed temporary settling basins, all of which we looked at the areas to show that they would have at least 50% more than the DEP minimum required capacity. And there would be a particularly large one on the inside of the immediately south of the intersection of the extension of Harvest Way and what's there shown as Melrose Drive, that will be Libby Lane. And we're going to have trenches across the road when it is only in partly graded form or sub-base form to capture runoff that may be coming down this street in its partly graded form, so that it doesn't keep going on to wetlands in Grafton or work its way down to the C wetland or below. I'm probably rambling a little bit here, but the bottom line is I think we've got a pretty good and pretty detailed plan that we've developed, and again, very much with the help of Derek and Sherry and you folks from a couple of informal discussions. So to circle back, we've got a clean review letter from DPW, and I think we've got really a very good plan. Again, the folks in Grafton basically said, you've got to do that for us when we showed it to them. So I'll just leave it at that and try and answer any questions if there are.
Would anyone like me to show any section of this set of plans?
Well, may I? Can I say something?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. I couldn't tell if you heard me or not. I'm maybe a little bit slow on the uptake, but I'm still trying to get my hands around this staged grading process and how you are going to control the downhill flow of this of water, which, as we know, in that area could be substantial. I know you're not clearing all the lots at once, but you are building the road all at once. Is that true?
That essentially is true.
Okay.
Actually, if whoever is controlling the sheet display could, I think, flip a couple more sheets and go to the scroll a couple further down. I think you'll have the interim grading plan that shows. There you go.
Yep.
All those squares you see there are temporary settling basins. And
Okay. Okay. Thank you. That answered my question. Thank you.
That's what I knew it was just on point. To intercept flow as things are going before, again, before obviously you've gotten to anywhere close to a base course of pavement or even having gravel down. And we looked at each of these basins, the drainage area these temporary settling basins, the drainage area going to it, and each of them is at least 50%. I think some of them are 100% extra above the DEP requirement for how much capacity a basin receiving drainage from so much area should have.
Okay. I assume the DPW had, you said you got a clean bill of health from them. I assume that there had to be something, but I wasn't seeing the structures on the maps that I was looking at. Thank you.
It's a big set of plans.
Okay, anything else from the board? So we did have Jordan and I had some discussion today regarding the existing and proposed trails for the site. So I'm looking at, well, if you look at any of the plans, they show the dashed lines, which I guess are the proposed trails, and
Go back to, go back to that sheet. You had some both dashed and solids. The solids are the existing, the dashed are the proposed. If you look a little north of any of these lots, you'll see parallel to the back of them a very thick dashed line. That's a proposed trail. And if you look just across the town line into Grafton, you see a solid line, and that's existing. Yep.
okay, the dashed lines were, it wasn't clear whether you folks were going to build the trails, or were these just proposed trails to shown on the map?
Mr. Chairman, we talked with, oh gosh, I'll forget the gentleman's name. Is it Sinat from Sudbury Valley Trustees first, and we asked them what they would do. He said if they were, creating this trail network such as on the plans, that they would really just do a very little bit of handsaw of maybe a few existing saplings here or there to make the trail more clearly demarcated. But it does not propose any earthwork to create that trail.
Okay. Jordan, we had discussed whether we wanted to put something in the order of conditions regarding trail construction.
That's correct. But I mean, so I'll sort of defer to the commission on whether, we wanted to see if the developer and the applicant would be willing to do that, or if, as James says, if it's just a matter of, if there's no real earthwork needed, I guess it's, it might be pretty easy to do with volunteers.
Okay.
If I could jump in just for a second, I know on the Grafton side, the open space parcel, which is most of the north of that side of the project, That is going to be owned by Sudbury Valley trustees and obviously managed by them. And I believe there's some discussion of Sudbury Valley trustees, though it will not own the open space in Westborough of, to some degree, doing management and maintenance also.
Oh, so Sudbury, I'm not clear on that. So Sudbury Valley trustees said that they will do some management of that land?
Yeah, I believe the final result of things in regard to the Westborough side, I think there was some confusion as to which, not Sudbury Valley trustees, but which other party would own the land. But I believe that Sudbury Valley trustees wanted to say that it was managing, if you will. I'm not sure that's precisely the right verb to be. It's probably a matter of being able to say on their brochure that they own or care for X acres of land.
Well,
Tim?
I think it's kind of meaningless because one, this doesn't show any kind of connection to the existing Libby trails, and the real main value of this piece, this open space parcel, is going to be how it can be connected to Libby, and that's already under.
Actually, we got to get to a different sheet, and you can see it.
It's got to go north.
G1 maybe.
G1. Awesome. That one.
Well, if it's shown, I apologize there. Okay, but see that just takes you on to Libby property. It's not a big deal. It's just that there's already the Libby parcel. Correct me if I'm wrong, Andy. Is under our control and management already, conservation. Yeah. And I would think that would be ideally the disposition of the open space parcel here.
I thought we had this conversation.
I think we did.
I think we had it in front of a representative for SVT.
Yeah.
Was that this be transferred basically to the Conservation Commission in Westborough?
Yeah.
And to be managed coherently with the Libby property.
Yeah.
And so whatever it is that SVT is saying that they want to put in their brochures, I think they need to come back.
That trail connecting to the Libby property shown on the screen. There's at that point where it hits the property line on the other side of which it says now formerly town of Westborough. In that location, that was chosen because at that location the trail on the town of Westborough land is something like 50 feet or 75 feet. It's at its nearest approach to this property.
Yeah. But we don't have any formal agreement with Sudbury Valley trustees regarding this property. So it's neither here nor there.
Yeah, I agree.
But the bottom line is that Vinicasa is not going to help with the construction of any of the proposed trails that are shown in dashed lines on the map. Is that correct?
I think it was his expectation that for certain on the Grafton side, but that Sudbury Valley trustees was going to do it there. And I think it was his expectation on the Westborough side, maybe they were going to help in that. Though obviously the issue of ownership complicates that.
Okay. Well,
Andy, for my, sorry to interject, for my part, I know that, the commission is going to own this and wants to, really assume care and control over it. And I'm in full support of that. And since it's going to connect into land that I guess is going to be managed by Sudbury Valley trustees, for my part, I'm happy to reach out and coordinate with them, even though they're not going to be working on our side, but it's possible to collaborate and maybe even share volunteers or something like that. And so that's not related to this hearing, but I'm happy to try to make those connections so we have a seamless trail going into our Libby parcel.
Okay. I'll just leave it at that.
I'm trying to show where the Libby Trail is and where that's supposed to come
Yes,
in.
thank you, Sherry. Thank you very much. I thought it paralleled the that back property line and
Yeah,
it was,
it's close.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a stone wall right there.
exactly.
And the Libby Trail, it really kisses it. So.
Yeah.
it
That's where
wouldn't-
the bears live too,
Yeah.
right up there. I'm not joking.
No, you're not.
No
They
joke.
live on the Laflamme property over there, the forestry property over on
Yeah,
the
they
Laflamme
love it over
side.
there.
Okay, well, we have the order of conditions, which has been posted up in Dropbox. I don't know if people got a chance to review those. Do you have any questions about the order of conditions and the special orders, special conditions?
Not me.
Okay. So
Andy,
any other-
Andy, could I ask a question? And I'm gonna,
Yeah.
yes, gonna show my ignorance a little on this, but the order of conditions references the plan that Sherry showed, which is, you know, which has been approved and by the and verified by the DPW and Engineering Division, but it doesn't. I just want to make sure that that plan is the one that the planning board is going to approve. In other words, this one shows that road as Melrose Drive, but James has said that it would be renamed as Libby Lane, and I just want to make sure clerically that that's not an issue.
Good question.
Sure.
Could we put in, well, we have the permit package. That's what we're approving.
Right.
Does anybody think that the name of the road is pertinent?
No, I think they, you know, that I don't believe that that's relevant. I mean, it's relevant for planning purposes and for the recordation of the plan, but not for our purposes. It doesn't change the drainage issues or anything that we're concerned with. I mean, what do you think? And what's your experience, Jordan?
Well, I just want to be sure because just that the planning board's decision will reference our order of conditions, and it might be a non-issue. I just want to make sure there's no issue if the plans, if any changes occur before the planning board issues their approval, that we're referencing this specific plan and that's okay. So that's just my concern.
Well, as I recall, there is nothing in the special order of conditions that references Melrose Drive specifically.
Correct. It doesn't. I changed them all based on, because I had gone back and forth with James. So I do reference Libby Lane. Of course, I don't have to.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think so.
Well, can't you do like a Libby Lane, formerly known as Melrose, or something like that for a transition?
Could. Yep.
Also
Or
known
could just say
Also known as.
proposed cul-de-sac. I could just say something. So yeah. Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to throw that out there to get confirmation. So thank you.
Okay. Well, I have no objection to the plans as shown, and doesn't sound like anybody else has. So anything else from the board?
Nope.
Hearing nothing, I need a motion to close the notice of intent hearing and issue an order of conditions for Zero Harvest Way cost investments, DEP file number 332-902 with special conditions 21 to 45.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call. Gary,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes.
Andy, yes. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you for putting up with my inability to connect here. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Hey,
good
have a
night.
good night.
Thanks, James.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the order of conditions for 171 Ruggles Street, Leyland Weiner, DEP file number 332909, the special conditions 21 to 40. The special conditions were also put up in Dropbox. Do you have any further comments, Jordan?
No, I don't.
Any questions from the board? Hearing none, I need a motion to issue the order of conditions.
So moved.
Second,
Roll call. Gary,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Stephanie,
yeah,
Andy. Yes. Okay. Oh, stick a fork in that one. Okay. Just trying to, okay, we have, oh boy, the next item on the agenda is the appointment of a chair and vice chair for 2-year term.
didn't we just do that last year?
No,
Wow,
It was a quick 2 years.
I
Let's
guess.
just claim that we did and just keep going.
okay.
Well, you still want to do it, Andy, or
I-
what?
I
I
don't
nominate
mind.
Andy Konigsberg to continue as our chairman.
As long as you guys want to keep doing it, I nominate
I'm
both of you.
okay. I got okay doing it. You know, it helps keep me off the streets. So,
Vice Chair.
okay, so anybody else want to run for chairman?
No, thank you.
Okay. I need a motion to appoint Andy Kenigsberg as chairman until July 2022.
So moved.
Second,
Roll call. Gary,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Stephanie.
yes.
I can't vote for myself,
No, you can't.
right?
Why not?
It would still pass even if you did refuse.
It's awkward. Okay, I need a motion to appoint someone, excuse me, I need nominations for vice chairman until July 2022.
Tim Buckaloo.
I second that.
Second,
I accept and I will not serve. No, and that was somebody else who said that. If
Right.
nominated, I will not serve. No, who said that?
Okay,
Alan
so
Stevens,
who put Tim's name on the floor? I forget, was that?
guy down in the
Gary?
corner.
Gary?
Gary. So do you guys have to go through the clerk's office and get sworn in for all that again and everything?
No, it just got sworn in to be on the commission. It's entirely up to us.
To do that, yeah.
Yeah. So, because I like this guy, I've already been sworn at. So I need a second on that.
Second,
Okay. Roll call vote. Andy, yes. Gary,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Stephanie,
yes.
do you want to vote, Tim?
No,
Okay. Makes that easy.
the precedent's been set.
Approval of minutes from June 9th. Does anybody have any questions or comments about the June 9th meeting minutes? Okay, hearing none, I will sign those. Conservation Director updates.
I have a few things and I'll turn it over to Sherry. First, just an update on the stewardship we're doing over at 30 Belknap Street. This is the property we're purchasing and for which you just approved a grant application. Town's right now negotiating this short-term 5-year maintenance easement so that we can pass over the homestead lot to access these back habitat meadows for mowing and any other type of stewardship we want to do on the property. And in those 5 years, so let's say between now and 2025, we'll need to develop an alternate access into the property for maintenance and stewardship. I did hire a local mower, JB Sawmill. He does a lot of work with the DPW to mow those back meadows at some point this month. So that's pretty much what's going on there. And I'll keep you guys all updated, obviously, if and when we get the grant, although Andy will know as well, being on the Open Space Preservation Committee. And if we are, Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna ask, where are they looking at trying to get alternative access?
Well, that's kind of up to us. We're gonna own the property, so the property is now split into 3 parcels, and this middle parcel is not going to be owned by us. It's going to be controlled by the Board of Selectmen for future utility needs. And that's one option that, if the town needed to access that area for underground utilities, that they'd have to build access in, and we could use that. But I don't know that may never happen. It's just an option the town wanted to keep. So I walked with the property owner about a month ago, and we identified a well-worn foot trail that kind of goes through more open forest. It's like, a fern ground cover, very open. The grading is pretty even. It connects this how do I describe this? This old cart path that gives you access to those back meadows. Once you're through the homestead lot and you're back on what will be our land proper, this trail actually kind of connects you back to where the wetland restoration is that, for the groundwater contamination.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, that you'd want to go there that way, yeah.
So basically what we do is, in the future is you'd enter in on Belknap, you'd use the MTA utility easement, you'd go in, and then we basically just need to widen. I identified almost no real tree removal. I think it's almost plenty wide to get a vehicle and a mower in through there, maybe with a little light grading. So that would be my preference. And then we're not reliant on the town developing any access in through the utility parcel. So that's, I don't know the property that well yet. Once we own it and we can get on there, and one of the stipulations of the land grant is that if we are awarded it, we will have to develop a land management plan and submit that's pretty comprehensive. That's more than what we had to provide to apply for the grant, which we didn't have to say anything necessarily about the property. We just had to provide evidence that we do stewardship in Westborough, and Westborough Community Land Trust helped us with photos and documentation, and they wrote a letter of support indicating that the Charm Bracelet Trail would go onto the property, and that they lead educational walks, guided walks throughout the year, that they would also schedule on that property to get the public on. But we haven't actually had to indicate what we would do with the property yet. So we will have to do that if we get the grant. But obviously we're going to want to do that anyway, because we're owners of the property, and there's beautiful meadows back there. They're going to be mowed this year, again this month. And I think I instructed him to really, as best that he can, mow down the encroachment on the edges. It's a lot of multifloral rose and a few other kind of invasive woody shrub growth that's coming in and, slowly swallowing up that meadow. And there's little spits of staghorn sumac and multifloral rose, just early pioneer stuff that you would find in a meadow that's unmanaged. So there's a great resource there that we really want to keep on top of. So we certainly have an incentive to develop a plan for that property. So the other thing I wanted to discuss with you guys is also related to stewardship. And Sherry, do you think you could share, I put in the Dropbox the proposed A&R for 140 South Street, and there's an aerial view that I put as a PDF too. And so I thought if you open them both, we could just go back and forth between them. 140 South Street, they're building 2 homes there. And when you issued the order of conditions, Derek had put in a special condition that the back parcel is going to get deeded to the Conservation Commission. And we'll look at it's quite a bit of land. It's like 30 acres of land. Derek had included another special condition that we be allowed to get in there and clean out around the pond. There's a small old farm pond that was dug. And this special condition basically reads that before a certificate of compliance is issued, can you go to the other one, the A&R? Yeah. So all of that back land there, was it say 28 acres?
Yeah.
is gonna be conveyed to the Westborough Conservation Commission. Our town council is reviewing the deed right now because it's a condition of them getting a certificate of compliance for either house lot. So there's a
So,
special
where's the
condition in
pond?
there. Go ahead.
Where's the pond?
Can you go back to the aerial?
Pond's gonna
Right,
be
yeah.
almost right here.
Okay.
But this is the blueberry lady's house, just to.
No,
Yeah.
the pond is much closer. The pond is
Oh,
right
is
off the
it?
blueberries. You see, can
Oh.
you zoom in? I don't know if you can zoom in
Yep.
there, but
Right there.
Hold on, I have
Is it
so-
that black spot?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's that black spot. Yeah.
Okay.
So you can see
Behind the blueberries.
Yeah. So you can see the extent of the cleared area is basically these two house lots. The blueberries are actually not going to be on town land. They're going to be essentially on
the split.
yeah. Well, I actually don't know exactly where the lot lines are going to fall, but that pond is going to be our pond.
Yeah.
And the way that the order of condition reads is that the town reserves the right to pass over the two proposed house lots in order to do any kind of maintenance we want to do around that pond. The way that Derek wrote the condition was, give me 1 minute, I've got the,
I thought that they were supposed to maintain access for the public to those blueberry patches too. Did that not go through?
no, there's no provision for that.
Oh, sorry.
So there's a couple special conditions that lots 1 and 2 shall have iron pins located at the corners, and that way we can affix our conservation boundary signage. The one that I'm referring to, special condition number 23, access to rear pond shall be provided during house construction so that the pond can be cleaned. So, I guess that what I'm putting to you is sort of the idea of cleaning around the pond would be like, removing all the vegetation around the pond and maybe doing some light excavation to remove sediments and stuff. It is growing in a little bit with invasive Phragmites or common reed. Now that could be managed by hand. We don't need equipment for that. So I met on site with Derek Sari and sort of got to understand what he envisioned, which was really going in with some big, vegetation clearing equipment and mowing everything down around that pond to, I guess, restore it to the way that the former owner kept it, which was a little bit more open.
And what is the value to the town of this pond?
There's no real value. I think the value to the Conservation Commission is that it now acts as a wetland. It provides wildlife habitat. We could potentially, if you see we're looking at 140, but next to it is number 146 and then 148. There's a sewer easement that wraps around all of those lots. And sure, if you scroll down, number 154 is actually a town parcel. See that number 154 there? That's actually like a sewer pump station or some type of pumps. Sherry, you would know better than me what
Yes,
what
it's
is
sewer. It's
And
right
so
where-
go ahead. Sorry, Sherry.
I was just gonna say it's where Upton Road and South Street split.
Right. So we have access through the sewer easement. We certainly could provide some trail access off of that into the property. And we could certainly provide a trail around that pond. So the reason I'm bringing this up is A, because we're about to acquire a large piece of land, and B, because they're going to be coming probably in August or at September at the latest, asking for a certificate of compliance for the first house lot. And, we either need to waive this right to access rear pond to clean it, or exercise it. So I understand sort of what Derek's intentions are, what he would like to see done. And I told him that, ultimately it would be up to the Conservation Commission. So that's why I'm kind of putting this out to you as discussion. You can think about it. We don't have to decide tonight, but I just wanted you to be aware that that condition is in there, that this land is about to be deeded to the town, specifically the Conservation Commission, and that we ought to think about what we might want to do with it.
I'd like to know what the ongoing maintenance plan and costs would be for a pond that I don't see as having a whole lot of significant value to it. I'm just concerned because I'm on a lot of these other committees where we're coming up asking the town people to come up with an awful lot of money for a lot of these energy conservation and greenhouse gas reduction emissions projects that we're working on. And I see this pond as a low priority compared to a lot of the other things that we've got going on. So I don't know if we already have the funding put aside for this, if that's something that we're not going to be having to go back to town meeting to ask for more money for a maintenance plan on this pond. But that's my concern.
Stephanie, to answer your question about funding, the expectation would be that we would use the money in our own budget, this contractual services money that typically will be 15,000, but for FY21 has been reduced to 10,000 to mitigate for the kind of the loss of revenue due to COVID-19. So $10,000 is what we have going into FY21, and we're spending, I'm going to say probably between 2,500 and 3,000 of it to mow the meadows at 30 Belknap Street. I don't know that for sure, but it's going to be somewhere up there because there's quite a bit of work to do.
Oh.
So it's not something we need to go to town meeting to fund. It's more something that we need to either prioritize or say we don't need access through those house lots to do anything we want to do, and so we're not going to, we don't need to pursue that special condition.
Well, I think we should definitely have access so that we have that open to if and when we do want to do it, and then that makes sense.
A little
That's
bit.
what we won't have anymore, Stephanie.
This is,
You what?
We
there's
won't
some
have that
historical
anymore once it
context
gets.
here that's just getting skipped over.
Oh.
This has been previously discussed as well. This little pond was the irrigation pond for the blueberry patch. It was basically a dug mud hole at some point. There was access to it basically from the front of the property, in fact. And it runs inside the lot line for the house to the south and stuff. And it basically runs up that side was the old access to this. And Derek's intention, although he likes to do things, big, was basically just to preserve the health of this little water hole and stuff. And it had been allowed to go derelict for a number of years, so it needs to be cleaned out. And maybe over time, somebody has to go in there and, clean it out a little bit again. So this wasn't supposed to be a big deal. In terms of trail access to the property, that's a whole nother issue, in fact. And, the fact that you thought about that, Jordan, I think is great. And maybe there's a way to put those together. But, I think we want to maintain the health of this thing or decide that we're just going to let it go. It's not an important, body of water, and it's, man-made. I don't think it has a lot of value. But I think Derek's original intention of maintaining it as a small body of water was a nice thing to do.
I would like to look at it myself. I know I can well imagine what it looks like, and it was, farm pond probably created in the 20s or 30s, or if not later. And but I would just like to look at it before I render any judgment about its future. I don't mind letting things like that just turn into mud holes. Mud holes have value too, and there'll be turtle territory, and turtles will like it, and muskrats, and that's okay.
May turn into a vernal pool someday if it isn't already. So
Right.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, I just see that being kind of labor intensive, going in and clearing out vegetation and all that from behind that property. I just see that running into more than whatever we got left, $6,000 or $7,000.
yeah, Derek was looking to have machines come in, clear out the trees around it. I remember having this discussion with him. We went out to this site. But in retrospect, we're looking at this. Yeah, it's aesthetically, it's nice, but it doesn't have any impact on stormwater. Right. It's downhill of the street. Our funds are very, very limited.
Yeah.
There's no real positive impact to wetlands protection by doing this.
Is that stream feeded that crosses South Street? It looks like you can see a stream bed there that goes right to it.
There's one that comes across right here.
Yeah,
That's correct. That's correct.
but it does feed it. So it's functioning to receive that water as well.
Yeah. It's right adjacent to the wetland.
But
So,
it also abuts basically Cedar Swamp.
Yes, yep.
Well, I mean, we could arrange for site visits if we wanted, if you want, Tim, I know you do, but I mean, just let me know and I'll arrange with the owner and we can get out there and have a look. I mean, in my view, that there's vegetation clearing is one issue, and maybe doing some excavation of sediments or invasive plant management as another. It is very vegetated now. It's very grown in. I did not see any clear invasive pressure. It's not like it's bittersweet and things that growing around the pond. It's dogwoods and foxgrape, and there is some, I said, some Phragmites growing into the pond, which could be managed, but you don't need big equipment for that. So it's not contingent on getting access over those house lots to do that. So I think that the question I'm posing is, do we will not have long-term access over those house lots, but we could get access over them to do something if we wanted to before we release this permit. That's the kind of the question. And I guess the other thing is, if it's a matter of, this is just my view, if it's a matter of cleaning, excavating maybe some accumulated sediments or something just to improve its ability to take drainage from the street, is that something that the DPW wants to do, and would they maybe pay for that as opposed to that coming out of our own budget? So that's something to determine as well.
well, I thought Debtor made it pretty clear to you that he wanted it to come out of our budget. Since,
Correct.
But technically we don't own the land yet until it's actually conveyed. So,
Right. Yeah, it'll be, and that might be simultaneous to, them coming to ask for a certificate of compliance for the first house lot there. I think it would be number 142. So.
But I just really see that initial investment as kind of being a waste of time and money, because if it is getting a lot of sedimentation from the runoff from the road, it's just going to fill right back in again.
mm-hmm.
Those invasive plants are just going to fill right back in again. That's why I was thinking if we're doing a long-term type of maintenance for that pond, that was one thing. But if this is just a one-time thing, I don't see the sense in spending that money.
Yeah, I mean, Derek did this over a decade ago. He went in and cleaned that out. And a decade later, this is what it looks like. So,
right. And so we'd have to have a long-term plan of going in there and doing it every 10 years.
Yeah.
Or not.
Go ahead.
Well, we
We're
won't.
asking the contractor to clean it out this one time before the certificate's issued.
I don't know. Andy?
We could, but
I just don't see the sense.
yeah.
Well, Jordan, did you, I think you were looking for approval to exercise that option to do it, but does that mean you have to do it right away?
No.
Yeah. I mean, why
well,
not
we
just
don't-
exercise the option and then we can decide after going out to see it, because I'd like to see it as well, and then just decide what level of effort, if any, we decide to do.
Yeah, I mean, there's no hurry, except like I said, they're going to be coming for their certificate. However, that being said, to your point, Jerry, there's two houses that are being proposed here. The first one is basically built, and the one that the lot 2 is basically built. Lot 1 isn't even really started yet, so.
Yeah, foundation's in, but that's
Well,
it.
foundation's in, but it could be another year or so before they're looking for certificate of compliance. And,
Right.
the developer basically said to me, if you're going to do this, we prefer you go through lot 1 before we do like the landscaping and stuff. So you're right. We have some time to think about this. And I hadn't considered doing a site visit, but I think that would be appropriate. I mean, why not? We're about to own it. And so I would love to go out there with any of you that are interested, and we can stay socially distant and just look and see what we have there. that would be great.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if it's algae covered and, with that type of stuff, just, what sort of value it has.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think Stephanie's right. Well, you all are right. It was dug as a farm pond. It was open water, and then nature took its course, as it will again if we don't keep it as open water. And so I guess the question is, what's the value of keeping it as open water versus letting it secede naturally?
And what's the value of spending money to clean it out if we're just going to let it go after that? I don't, it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. Right. Yep. Exactly.
It's artificial. Yeah.
And I guess the other question too is I don't know. I mean, once we get the property, we can develop a land management plan. Sherry, could you go back to the aerial photo? Yeah. Once we own it, we'll be able to get back out there and walk around and see what are the possibilities of trails and getting the public out. And once, Stephanie, to your point, I mean, basically once those house lots are built and those, we've issued the certificates of compliance. I mean, there's no provision to give town access over those lots. It's just written into the permit that we can get access just for this one thing before the certificates are issued. So even in 10 years, if we wanted to do it again, we'd basically either be asking permission or we'd have already developed some other access back to that pond, which I think is why Derek negotiated to get that in the order of conditions, so that if we were going to do anything, we would do it before everything's still open and accessible.
Right. Where is there any other access? Where are the trails for this property?
Well, like I said, they're right on the periphery of all of those house lots there, starting with 154 to 146, there's a sewer easement that's mowed and maintained by the DPW. So, once you get onto there, it would be basically, I think, coming off of there, somehow getting into the property through there.
Yeah, so that wouldn't be that bad if we really wanted to.
Right.
I just don't see the sense in spending the money if we're not going to invest in some type of a maintenance plan for the pond.
About that trail, though, the homeowners along there, I don't know if anybody recalls, they came to the hearing and they would not have been happy to have a trail right behind their houses. And also, when you go out there for a sidewalk, you'll see what I saw, which is that cedar swamp. There's not a whole lot of places where you could put kind of an upland trail.
There was no plan to have this as anything other than swamp habitat.
Yes.
And so this question only comes up because of that little pond that's there. And as Stephanie is saying, if the pond's not going to be maintained, there's no reason to have any access whatsoever. Mm-hmm. This is an isolated piece of land. Yeah. The access was basically through her property to begin with. And it turns into swamp back there because I've been back there.
Yeah. Yeah, people only accessed it in the winter. Historically, it was only people going out in the winter when the land was frozen and they could go from hummock to hummock and get, marginally wet without drowning.
Is the extent of cedar swamp just the pink hash tag, the grid? Is that cedar swamp, and then what's the purplish and the grayish?
Well, that's just the MassDOT wetland data layer. It's basically just symbolizing what they've classified as different types of wetlands.
Okay.
I don't have I didn't include the legend on this, but
okay.
So that's it's not indicating the boundary necessarily of Cedar Swamp or the ACEC. It's just indicating where the state has mapped wetland.
Okay.
But I would guess that is the ACEC limit, though, all three, because there's portions of the ACEC that come pretty close to South Street too, and those back properties. So it's likely all ACEC.
Well, if it pleases you all, then I'll organize a site visit. I'll work with Chuck Black and get us access, and we'll figure out when you all want to go, and then we can look. And personally, I don't see value really in removing the vegetation because it's I mean, it's going to be an unmanaged area. I guess I could see some value in excavating some sediments just to start fresh, and then even if it can never happen again. But I defer to you all, obviously. But I don't know that I necessarily want to spend our money doing that.
No, I don't see the sense.
Yeah, that's the consensus I'm hearing. I mean, Jordan and I already discussed this already, and my attitude was that this is not impacting drainage. It's an artificial pond to begin with. From what I'm understanding.
Sherry, you're real quick.
Pardon me?
Sherry's
No.
quick. She's fast.
No one's no one's taking care of the blueberry bushes. The owners don't want to let anybody back there to handle the blueberry bushes. So
Great shame.
Everything's
Great
going to
shame.
revert. So, you know,
It's a great shame. Those are heritage bushes. Those bushes with the proper care, and if I had the equipment and the energy, I'd go down and steal them.
mhm.
Well, Tim,
The offer was made that if anybody wants any of those bushes, come and get them.
No,
Probably going to go away.
Well,
Whose
no, they told
property
us
is that?
but you have to get access, Gary. You
It's
have to
all-
get a
it's
truck
all
back there and
developers.
The
They're
guys
they're
that built
huge.
they told us that at one of our hearings.
and he
Yeah,
said he would
wow.
check, Gary. He said he would check, and then I think he checked and was basically told, we were told, yeah, you can come and get them, and then after that, you've got construction fences up. I mean, you can't get back there. You'd have to have a 2-ton dump truck and an excavator to take those out, and you can't do it now till the fall.
Yeah,
So
I got it.
winter. I mean, I would have. They're beautiful. She took immaculate care of them and pruned them and tended to them extremely well. Anyway, enough bullshit. Sorry.
All right.
She was a
So-
legend.
I'll follow up with you all on getting out to the site, and then basically just I'll hold off on. I don't need to relay our intention at this point, and I'll just wait until we've all had a chance to look, or those of you that want to, and then I can communicate with Derek about what we aren't willing to do, and with the owner as well, and we can go from there. Once we own the property, obviously even if it's just to sit, I would like some kind of a management plan for this, but that'll be on my plate, and we can talk about that once we own it.
Mhm. Anything else, Jordan?
That's all for me. Go ahead, Sherry.
Sorry, hold on 1 second.
How are these properties that seem to be being handed over to the town and especially Conservation Commission for open space? Is that just strictly as so they don't have to pay taxes on that portion of the property, but they're still getting to keep it as open space all around their property?
Well,
Is
it's
it-
being deeded over to the town. All that land back there is getting deeded over. I mean, they've.
But to me, it just seems like averting paying taxes. It's like, why wouldn't I take this huge chunk of property behind my land and my house and not have to pay taxes on it and give it to the town so that I don't have to pay
That's
taxes on it?
exactly what's going on. It's undevelopable land. They did it over to the town. That way it's not on the tax rolls when they go to sell the upland houses.
No responsibility for it either. I mean, but the other side of that is that they couldn't do anything with that land anyway, because they're developing all the upland of it except for the blueberry patch, I think. Is that right? I haven't been.
Yeah.
I haven't been on the property, but I'm just visually what I can see is the development of the frontage lots and the high parts of the property, and everything else would have required incredible permitting to do anything back there. So there's no cost to the town taking it, because I think
No, we're just losing
with
tax
negligible
revenue.
value, it would have. I mean, what's the value on it?
There wouldn't be, I don't know if there'd be much tax revenue on it.
No.
No.
Because it's
no.
not buildable.
Yes.
Right.
That's right.
And so why not make it, permanently undevelopable or permanently just out of anybody's reach by the town owning it and turning it into conservation land?
True.
It's kind of been the attitude we've had all along. Somebody wants to give us open space, we'll take it.
Well, it's actually more valuable to us because it's habitat preservation.
Yes. Turtles.
Yeah, the only thing I see with that is, and I think it's just the 2 parcels being developed. We'll just need to watch for encroachment and that kind of thing on the backside there. But there doesn't seem to be a lot of residential edge where you'd see, you'd necessarily need to be really watching it.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
I mean, the 2 lots go all the way back to the wetlands. So that's a lot of area that they would need to encroach on. And I don't think anybody wants to cut a lawn that large.
Put a pool back there though. So you can put a couple of swimming pools.
So,
Olympic sized.
Yeah.
All right.
I just wanted to go over a couple of the stormwater properties real quick, just some things that I came across, just so you're aware. CarMax, I went out and did their inspection. Everything looks more normal this year than it did last year. They haven't cut the outfalls yet, but I imagine they'll do so. They do have some trees in the CR that are flagged at the moment, and I reached out to all my contacts and asked why they were flagged and if they had planned on taking them down, and if they would come before you all and explain why. And I haven't actually heard back yet, so I'm going to reach back out again this week to ensure that they're not going to start cutting trees again in the CR like they did last year. When I reached out in the beginning for the catch basins, the GM had explained to me that the salamander program is still going on in the building like it's supposed to, and that all the new employees have been updated again this year about where the salamanders are, what they look like, what to watch out for. So I was happy to hear that at least they're still having that ongoing education within the building.
Was there any observation of salamanders this spring?
So I did reach out to Jesse in Natural Heritage to see if that survey was done this year. And he said he would get back to me. I had done that about 2 weeks ago, hoping I would have something to give you, but he hasn't gotten back to me. I'm afraid to say that maybe because of COVID-19, that didn't get done this year because it gets done around May. Hopefully it did, but I'll also reach back out to him and see if he got any progress on that. Last year, I didn't get the report till August, but it is dated from May. So I hope I'll find something. 291 Turnpike Road. So that is Not Your Average Joe's, and there's an Indian restaurant there right next to Taco Bell. I was called out to that site to look at their catch basins, and I'm going to share my screen. I think you all remember last year with 2 Connector Road where the businesses were pouring grease in the grease trap. Well, 291 started doing it again. So this is their grease trap right out the back door. These buckets were filled with grease, and then it comes out this pipe. They've got 2 pipes coming from 2 different catch basins. I was here last year. I had this basin cut with Allen Height, and they were not doing this because I was standing in this basin. So this is only about a year's worth.
Which restaurant was doing this? Both of them?
Well, so Not Your Average Joe's has been closed. So
right,
must be just the Indian restaurant that's there. So they know who is doing it. It's significant. They recently, we had them cut the vegetation off. They put in the swales. I'm not even sure if Jordan's seen this yet, but there's a Gaben wall in this detention basin. So the detention basin goes all the way down towards the wetland and runs along parallel to called Arrive now, the old fountainhead. It's a pretty big basin for this property, but it does take a lot of asphalt. So we had them put straw wattles in front of the Gaben wall just to keep the grease on this side of the detention basin. And then at some point I will work with them to excavate the grease out because it's contaminated. You can see all the soils in here.
Was the DEP notified of this? Do you know, Sherry?
I don't have an answer for that. I feel like yes, but
they really should be.
I'm not entirely sure on that now.
Yeah, that looks like a big find to me.
I will research that and get back to you.
I can ask if you'd like. I can make a phone call to ER and ask. Just
Jordan,
know if Because as far as I know, that's a reportable condition. That's a discharge.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I don't think we have. And Sherry's going to update you on another one that we have, but I don't think we did this one. So can
Yeah,
you just CC me on anything, Stephanie? Or
Yeah, sure.
do that?
What's
Thank
the
you.
address? 291?
291 Turnpike Road.
Now, do the restaurants there own those buildings or they have a landlord?
No, they have a landlord. So I reached out to their landlord and then their property manager. So I'm dealing kind of with three entities. The property manager, the property owner I've never met. I've emailed with him, but he might live elsewhere. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Their landowner is Alan Height. He also manages Uno's and the movie theater, that whole plaza. So I'm kind of familiar with him. He immediately kind of understood that this was a no and that this needed to get cleaned up. So that was nice not to have to fight anybody to get it cleaned up. But I'm hopeful, I just got an email this week that they're going to start to clean this out next week. I have some plans with elevations and whatnot, and they have hired a contract, Joel Excavating, who does have survey equipment and whatnot to actually take care of this the way it should be done. It's not just going to be some guys with shovels. So I should have some more to detail on that next.
Yeah, I want to, I'm going to try to get a hold of ER tomorrow, because if this is something that should be handled under DEP, there's a notification that needs to happen before they start doing any kind of work, and they have to submit a plan. They can't just go in there and do whatever they want. It has to come in as a immediate response action plan. So let me check on that. I will send an email to him tonight, and he's usually good about getting back to me. And I'll let you know tomorrow as soon as I hear anything. Because you don't want anybody going out there starting digging if they haven't complied with DEP.
Yep. So I guess my question on that is then, does that put us in an odd spot because 2 Connector Road, we didn't involve DEP? And it's the same exact scenario.
What's 2 Connector Road?
2 Connector Road was last year. It's off of the Honeydew, and it's like a true wine, and there's 2.
Is it already cleaned up?
Yeah.
All right, well, then we wouldn't go back on something like that. I would keep my mouth shut about that. But for future ongoing releases like this, we need to know what the proper protocol is, and I'm pretty sure that should be being handled under DEP.
Great, okay.
Stephanie, who do you contact there?
Kevin Doust. His last name is Daoust. He's the head of ER, emergency response. He's the section chief. If I can't get a hold of him, I'll get a hold of Bob Dunn, but I usually talk to Kevin. Yeah, because I know they've been out on releases of, like, say, tanker trucks that were carrying food grade oil for restaurants or whatever that have spilled on the highways. That gets reported just like any other release, even though it's food grade vegetable oil. And so this would be the same thing.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not how we did 2 Connectors, so I apologize. I didn't know which way.
No, that's not. Well, we'll figure it out and move on from there.
Since I keep finding this, so yeah, I'd like to know the proper way. So with that, then I don't need to keep sharing this. 287, the next property over, which is not Taco Bell, but the
office building.
Thank you. I totally lost train of thought. We're all talking with all 3 of those sites. They had someone from their cleaning service dumping the discharge from the carpets down the catch basin. And the Taco Bell general manager or regional manager caught it on camera and sent a bunch of pictures to me of that cleaning company. I think it's Anthony's Cleaning Company.
Leonardo's.
Darn. So we contacted 287 Turnpike Road, Colleen Hughes. She's always been quite quick at getting any stormwater done. She immediately called Jolyn Excavating, and they came out and cleaned the catch basin the next morning. They put straw wattles out, and they put silt sacks in front of all the discharges of the detention basins. They put silt sacks in all the catch basins. They cleaned them all. And then,
did you find out what the cleaning products were that they were dumping down there?
So they gave the list to Jolyn, and I have not seen the list of what it was, but it was like not generic, but it was carpet cleaner. That was what they were they were diluting it in water and it was carpet cleaner.
And this was recent as well.
Yeah, but we did contact DEP with that one.
Okay.
I have a picture. I don't know if you guys want it.
That one we were in contact with Giles Perkins, maybe. I think I'm getting that name right, but I actually had to work with our police department because we got a license plate, but you can't find an address for Leonardo's cleaning service on the internet. So they set me up with the correct address tied to that license plate. And we basically just sent a notice of violation, but really a warning. And I'm hoping that it will curtail any future
Yeah, that's not
stuff.
good.
No,
Correct.
It's not good for people to be doing this.
He get on.
Correct.
All they had to do was
That
pour
deserves
it
more than a warning.
I know.
Well, and sometimes they, they need something more official from a state entity to make it clear that this is a
Right.
finable violation.
Right. Well, yeah, because I cited our wetlands, the state law, our local bylaw, plus the surface water and groundwater discharge permit through DEP. I'm hoping that that's enough for this company. But thing is, they were caught doing this at this specific location. Presumably they work in a lot of locations, and hoping that that's not their practice.
It sounds like it is.
So
I think it is.
I'm hoping a letter, basically a letter from a government board would, basically scare them enough to not do it anymore. But I
All
don't
right,
know
I'm
that
going to
for
get a
a
hold of
fact.
Giles too, because Giles should have forwarded that over to Wayside Cleanup, and I don't know if he did.
Okay, yeah, I CC'd him this morning, so he has a copy of it.
I'm sorry, I can't find the picture of that right now. I've tucked it away someplace to even hide from me. So those were those two. 50 Otis Street. It's now going to be Amazon's. We can't call it Astra anymore. I was asked a couple weeks ago just to go and check on them again. I think I brought it up to you a while ago that they
I was
had
going to ask about them.
some discharge and it didn't work in the silt sack. So I went out and did another inspection, and I have some pictures of that. They've had a lot of water getting down towards the there it is.
Hakamaka.
The road, yeah, the road where they're at the lowest point, basically. I don't think they're the best at getting erosion controls and best management practices in it. So this is the giant outfall pipe that pretty much takes almost all the site. There's a few off to the side, but most of the site comes here. It's hard to when you're standing there in person, you can see it clear as day, but it's hard to tell. This is all, and it hadn't rained in a few days when I went there. It's all sediment sitting right in here. And then at pretty much all the discharge points, there's just sediment sitting that has gotten into the basin. It concerns me, but it's not as concerning knowing that they've now had recent discussions saying that they're going to have to excavate the basin and get it back to its established height anyways, because it's too high after years of not being maintained, and it doesn't meet the proper elevations for what their new use is going to be. So they will probably be coming up in front of us to present what their plan is in this basin. But since then, I've gone there and I've had some discussions with them about working on, this is the last discharge point. This whole pipe needs to be jetted. They didn't have a silt sack in that catch basin, and so that's the lowest point before it gets out of the area, and all of the runoff just went right in that pipe. So now they've, and I think I got a picture of, this is the road. So they street sweep the road the day I came because I gave them notice I was coming. I'm not sure they had done it before that, but now they're realizing that we're watching, so they're going to start to try to do it more often. But this was the last catch basin where all of you can even see sediment right here, all of it from the site, because it's all open. There's no asphalt anymore. It just runs right here. It washes out so bad right here when it rains, it must take the whole site. So they've now, my email. Not that one. They've now, and I'm sorry, I can't turn it because it's in my email. They have put in these stone check dams, which you can see. Oh, oops, I'm sorry. Hold on.
See one of.
It's not showing. Hold on, let me do it again. It's not showing.
Sherry, can I just make one comment? I have I haven't been on the property, but what I've observed is that they have, they're obviously doing a lot of work on the front lots and the property and the old parking lot. Now they're trying to revive that, but they have got huge mountains of dirt. And as soon as I started seeing them, they change color every time it rains. And so that sediment is going somewhere. And you're saying, I mean, do they have wattles around? Are they doing any real maintenance on these piles? Were they given permission to remove any of this stuff off site, or how's it being regulated?
That's the tricky part about this. The only real area that I have jurisdiction is right here, because everything else is outside the 100-foot. So it all falls on engineering and the planning board.
Okay.
So unless they start to mess with the basin, we really have no jurisdiction. Now I can suggest an awful lot, and I can prove that it's not working, whatever they are doing, but I think I'll reach back out to engineering and ask Lisa if any of their inspectors have gone out to see the other side, because I haven't even gone to the other side.
That's what.
Building, yeah, I don't go out to that side of it's so huge and there's so much going on. But
it's obviously they're not doing anything to contain this, and
they're really trying now, but yeah, it's gone too far without supervision. So now I'll just hit them once a week. I'll just drive up, and it's easy enough the way the gate is that I can just drive up and I can walk down this road, see the basin, and then walk out, and nobody really notices me.
Andy, could we use the Conservation Commission drone on this?
Please.
The police department does have a drone which could be used for this. If you look at this as a policing activity, and it is a police, it's part of the police power of the town to supervise how this dirt is stored on the property. You just fly a drone over it, take some pictures, and then you never have to worry about getting on the property. The police department is already used. They want opportunities to use their drone, so that's all.
Well, I don't even see why you need to do that. You can see the end product, and that's not right. Where you can trace it back to its source.
Yeah.
And that seems like we should be doing that. And that seems like another DEP issue that should be going to the stormwater people, because they're the ones that should be overseeing that.
Oh, I see. I thought it was a wall.
No, yeah, I've tried to put it in the but so they put a stone check dam here, and then further down you can see here is a straw wattle, and there's another straw wattle down here. So it's catching some of the sediment as it goes. This is the cleanest I've seen this road since, and this was about 2 weeks after I had the initial conversation with them, and I didn't tell them I was coming. I just popped over. I actually told them I was going to come this week, and I came last week. So I was impressed they at least attempted it.
But Sherry, they may need to do some addressing of the problem at the site.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely they do. Yeah.
And if they don't,
I think you've got a picture of a violation there. So there's the carrot you hold to get them to do something on the site, or they're gonna get written up.
Yeah. So now they're sending me their SWIPs every week. I've asked them to put in when they do corrective actions, to write them down that they've been completed. Don't just write on that they need to do something. Write down that you've actually accomplished that and finished it. They're aware that I'm watching, and every time they send me a SWIP, I make sure I respond to them. So it's not like just going to blank email and thank you, and I'll say something about it so that they know at least I'm reading them too. So I think they're going to try a lot better now that they know that, because it went so long because of COVID-19 or whatever, that I never went out there and I wasn't asked to. And we had a group meeting, and Fred had said something about it, and I said, okay, I'll go out there next week. And it was worse than what I had originally saw. And my fear all along, and what I had said to them all along, was if you mess up the basin, you're going to have to fix it. And now the basin's been messed up. And now they're already having discussions about digging it out anyway. So it's going to have to come through you all at some point, regardless. Fix it.
Sherry, to be clear, I mean, even if the work they're doing is outside of the 100-foot buffer, I think the way our stormwater bylaw is written, that the Conservation Commission is the enforcing agent when the discharge is directly to a resource area. So I would argue that we do have jurisdiction. And I mean, it seems to me that they really weren't looking at anything until you showed up and sort of looking because of our stormwater inspection program, and now they understand that someone from the town is watching, so.
But this doesn't even make any sense. So on any normal construction project where you have a lot of earth moving going on, who is responsible for making sure that isn't all running down the street?
They have a
Well,
script in place.
Yeah, and strictly speaking, I mean, the DPW and engineering are responsible for the town's stormwater permit. So a lot of these get captured because they have a, you know, an NOI, or we have an order of conditions for it. But for those that don't, I'm saying I think we still have jurisdiction, because the way the bylaw is written, we would be the enforcing agent for anything discharging directly to a resource area, which this is. So
So are you saying as opposed to DEP being involved?
no, and I don't know. I think if there's something wrong here.
This is pretty egregious in my eyes.
I mean, my gut would be, if you want, then Sherry and I can contact Denise Childs and just say, this is the situation. Do you want to come and look at this?
I would, you know, because if we keep letting people get away with this stuff, we're too small. We don't have, you know, you got 2 full-time people in this group, and the rest of us are all just voluntary, a couple hours here and there. This is too much for you guys to oversee. And this seems to me that this type of, it's egregious, and it should get kicked up to DEP if it can. You know, and I don't know if I don't know how busy the stormwater group is, but yeah, I mean, I would contact Denise Child about something like this and just say, hey, is this something that we should just be handling on our own, or do you want to take a look at this too? Because really, having a notice of responsibility or a notice of non-compliance or something like that coming from DEP is a lot bigger hammer than Sherry. You know, it just is, and then they will put their act together, because this is a huge construction project.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Our local regulations about discharges in the wetlands read as follows. Discharges in the wetlands shall include, without limitation, any discharge from the project that flows to a wetland resource or buffer zone through a new or existing drainage structure, including existing road drainage pipes that empty into wetlands resources or buffer zones, regardless of the distance between the project site and the wetlands resources or buffer zones, period.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys, I mean, I can contact Denise Child too, but if you know her, then go right ahead and do it yourselves. Getting these stupid Indian moths.
Yeah, I mean, she's our go-to. So Sherry, we'll touch base on this in the morning, but I'm happy to do that, and then we'll just see. Let's just start a conversation about this.
I just want to make sure that you know, they should. My gut is that they should be involved in this as well, because that's pretty egregious.
Well, technically, that detention basin was built before 1996, so it is actually considered a wetland and not a basin, not a stormwater structure too.
Yeah.
The other thing too is, if Sherry, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, our engineering department has hired a monitor, right? Somebody from the town is supposed to be overseeing this. So
yeah, and I get emails from both of them now, but it's not. I don't know why he didn't pick it up before. You know, he should have.
You know, what you showed us is mitigation downstream. They got to do something better,
right?
At the
at the site. At the site, this should not be getting into the street. Should not be going off the property at all.
They should. They should be on notice that what they're doing on the site's not working, and make a change there.
Yeah. I mean, you can't just let these big companies come in and just start doing whatever they want. It's, you know, this is a state law as well as a local bylaw. So.
Well, common sense. It's common sense. I mean, if you go over there and you look, there is a mountain of dirt taller than any of the building structures over there, and
that has to be managed.
And that should be tarped, securely tarped and covered, just for dust purposes.
It's bigger than it must be several thousand.
No, but I've been on projects where you're forced to put seed on it and grow and stabilize it.
Yeah, I mean, because that's even
we've done that, but
that's an air issue as well with all the dust. You know, with all there's a lot of violations going on here.
Oh well, they already got shut down. God. 6 months ago by
who?
Fire department and Fred, because they were doing like concrete. They were chiseling on site.
Wow.
Set up for that.
Wow.
And yeah, and they went nuts. And that's how I got involved in the first place, because they
No, who the heck is this contractor that doesn't know how to do things right?
It's what is it, Kaylin? I'll get it right now.
Sounds like a lowball
It's
contractor.
Amazon. Come on, it's Amazon. What do you think?
I hope they never watch this video.
Well, I mean, Stephanie, I mean, can't you argue that, I mean, aren't we living in a world built by the lowest bidder? I mean,
Well, that's true, but yeah, that doesn't mean the rest of us can't go in there and stomp on them when they're doing things wrong.
I'm just joking.
Yeah.
Sherry, I'd like to, let's just touch base, because I want to loop Lisa Elaine into this, because I just want to make sure that they're in the loop too, because really, I think this is their responsibility. And I don't want this to become something that totally dominates your time, this one property where there's
No, and it actually sounds like a stormwater issue as well as a solid waste issue. You got two different bureaus involved in that discharge.
Well, we'd be happy to pass it off, obviously, but okay.
So Stephanie.
That's the one you should be talking to Giles about.
Gary, I couldn't hear you.
Yeah.
That's the one you should be talking to Giles. Oh, sorry.
So you brought something up that raises a question for me. So over on South Street, they have large mounds of soil basically exposed to the air. Is that something? No, it's not creating a runoff problem. But
anytime you have mounds of soil anywhere that's causing a dust storm, if you've got a dust storm going on, it needs to be either wetted down or covered or something. You can't just have mounds of soil sitting around in residential neighborhoods blowing dust storms through the neighborhood. That's
Gary, you can't force them to do anything until it causes a problem.
So there has
well,
to be
yeah, if you're driving through, and you see a dust storm.
And you
Okay,
know,
one at a time, folks,
it's fine. And a simple solution is to keep it wet.
Right.
And those stockpiles, they've already started spreading them, so they're not, because that's just at the bottom of my street. They're not long term. It'd be interesting to see how long term Amazon is expecting those stockpiles to be.
Yeah, so, thank you, Jerry. I understand. In the past, there have been problems where those stockpiles sort of sit for a long time as the project gets delayed for whatever reason and stuff.
Right. Then you have to do something long term. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Gary, that's you make an interesting point, though, that, I mean, that's a condition we could have, which basically would speak to site control. I mean, we always want to identify where things are going to be stockpiled. And we talk about erosion and sedimentation controls for things that are going to be, more than 24 hours, or, if a storm is coming or something. But I don't know that our order ever speaks to.
No, that seems.
Kind of stuff, so.
I would think that would be more the planning department or the building department or whoever issues those permits. They're the one that are responsible for how they handle the construction waste and
that's correct.
Whatever.
Those are now called best management practices.
Right.
Yeah.
When they built Park Central, no, yeah, is it Park? Westborough Park, up on 346 Turnpike Road, we had a condition where if it was going to sit longer than 7 days, it had to be hydroseeded.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
It is good.
They got cowboys over there on that Amazon site, and they're just doing whatever they want to, because I'm telling you, they got that construction fence up there now. You cannot see what they're doing from Otis Street, and they've got access control all over the place, so you can't get onto the property. I want my drone.
I do too.
Well, but as far as
borrow mine.
the property, if you're a town official, you can get on the property at any time.
Especially if they got a big stream of sand coming out of their lot down the street.
Where's my badge?
We get badges?
Badges? We don't need no stinking badges.
You got those nice T-shirts and sweatshirts.
I don't have anything.
Oh, I'm talking to Sherry.
Oh, I want a cowboy hat.
Well, Sherry's got a car.
We can get to that. We'll spend our budget on cowboy hats. That sounds right.
Okay, folks, I think we can stick a fork in this one. We agreed that we need to go to regulatory agencies. Anything else, Sherry?
No, well, I have 338 Turnpike, but I have no update other than, I think, Jordan, you might have more of an update on that than I do.
I'm going out tomorrow just to see what they're up to, and I can report back. I mean, they claim that they're putting together an NOI filing, but I think they're still doing activity within the area that formerly was supposed to be restoration mitigation. This goes back to an enforcement order from.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you guys know the history more than I. So I can send an email to you all once I do a site visit tomorrow and just understand better when I talk in person with them what their plans are and like what they're currently doing on the site. So that's all.
Okay. All right. If nobody else has on the board.
I have one more
Yes, sir.
thing. Andy, I'm sorry. I'll try to be brief
apologize.
about it. I know we have been also directed our attention at the failed school project and the drainage issues over there. I drove through there very quickly the other day before we've had these last downpours. Do we know any, it's another problematic area because I've seen where they put the stone riprap down at the lower part of the parking lot, but they also have huge piles of dirt all over the place and uphill.
Mhm.
And it just seems to me to be, another possible source of problems. And I'm not looking for problems.
It has been, and it's getting attention now.
Okay.
It has for a while. I don't know if Jordan, Sherry, have anything you want to update us about on that?
Yeah, they continue to send us pretty much weekly SWIP reports and post-storm reports. And they reported, I think sent an email earlier, well, it's Tuesday, so they would have sent an email yesterday saying that storms that came in on Friday and over the weekend didn't result in anything. Tim, they are, I guess, systematically hydroseeding areas. So I think they are really trying to stabilize the exposed earth as best.
As I was saying, I didn't see any evidence of any kind of runoff. The parking lot was clean. There was no sediment in the riprap. I didn't go through the woods down to the pond, but it all looked pretty kosher to me. So
yeah, back last spring there were complaints. I got CC'd on emails. The Conservation Commission hadn't been inspecting that area because nothing had been jurisdictional on that project. And I guess we had complaints, residents, contacting the Board of Selectmen and the town manager, and people were up in arms that they'd killed the pond, and it was, it got a lot of attention, and I think it's gotten better.
Okay.
It's right after you came on, Jordan.
Yeah, no, I remember when you said last spring, I thought you were talking about 2019, but you're just talking about a couple months ago.
The good old days, yeah.
Andy, before you officially close, I wouldn't mind just touching back on the interchange improvement project, just to kind of make sure everybody understands how the process goes moving forward. Is that okay, or do you have anything else? Or
no?
Okay. So just I think I've said this before, but just so you're all aware, they're coming back on August 11th. Their next presentation, they're hoping that we'll issue a denial with conditions. They've sent me some examples of denials with attached conditions for similar projects that were denied because they exceeded the thresholds for which we can actually permit, which is what is happening in this case. I will send those around to you so you can look at what some conditions we may want to attach to this denial. It's been explained to me that conditions attached to a denial, they're not binding. They just give the DEP more information as they formulate their variance. And it just provides a record for what the local board is concerned about and what we'd like to see, how we'd like to see the project completed. So in terms of their presentation on August 11th, they've sort of relayed to Sherry and I that they'd like to speak to what you want them to speak to. So I've been fielding some questions. Gary's asked a couple about the specific species that are going to be used and some of this, specs like the height of the ramps and that type of thing. So if you have any questions or anything you want to learn more about in August, just shoot me or Sherry an email. We'll relay that to the folks at Tetra Tech so they can just what's the word I'm looking for? They can just make this presentation relevant and useful for us. Andy and I talked, and I think what we'd like to do is on August 11th, we will kind of close the hearing, but we won't issue the denial with conditions until the September meeting. That will give me another month to write them, and you all, it'll just give us all another month to kind of think about what we might want to include. And I think that's it. So yeah, I'll be in touch with this, and just let me know if anything comes to mind that you want relayed to the applicant and Tetra Tech. Thank you.
Speak now, forever hold your peace. Okay,
So moved.
I didn't. Let me try this again. I need a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved. Seconded.
Second.
Right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Tim,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes.
me, yes. Okay, it's 8:46 p.m. Have a good night, everybody. I'll get all that stuff scanned and over to you, Jordan.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, as soon as you can, because it's due tomorrow, and I just have to send it over to Steve Sloan whenever you do. So thank you, Andy. I appreciate that.
Sure.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
All right,
Thank you,
good night,
Jordan.
guys.
Thank you, Sherry. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, you guys.